Each year since 2005, the national variety trials have provided independent performance data on new varieties of cereals and field crops. But by using world's best technology, the NVT reporting system has just become a whole lot better.
As part of the National Variety Trials program, some 650 trials across the country's grain-growing regions are conducted annually. The enormous scale of the trials results in huge amounts of valuable data that needs to be collated, analysed and made available to advisors and growers for use in making informed decisions about which varieties to sow. For some time, the people behind NVT and the GRDC have been working to improve the way this resource is analysed and reported, and now they've achieved their goal.
This is actually brand new technology and largely being held back by the sheer size of the data volume that we deal with within NVT. The computational power needed, the types of models just aren't built to deal with the sheer size of what we're dealing with in NVT.
It was through another GRDC-supported research project that the technology was developed, the statistical study of biological data, or in a word, biometrics.
GRDC significantly invests in biometrics. We've been able to enhance a tool often used by actually plant breeding companies called a factor analytic model, and thereby where we analyse trials not by a given region, but we actually look at the performance of the varieties to tell us which environment groups they perform well in.
It's been a little while coming, but it's groundbreaking stuff. It's world class, it's world first type presentation of this information.
So this year's NVT data, as well as give the average performance as it has in the past, will present multiple values for each variety trialled. Values representing different trials and environments, where an environment might include a soil type, the type of season, or geographic location, or a combination of these things.
For consultants and for growers, they can now see the strengths and potential weaknesses of varieties. In the past, the variety trials have been averaged for a region, and so all of those high-yielding, low-yielding trials have all been put together, and on average, you get a result. But now we see the strengths of varieties in a poorer environment or a longer season, or weaknesses if they may occur, which we couldn't see before.
The biggest producer of new cereal varieties in the country is Australian Grain Technologies. AGT has breeding operations in New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and WA, and has been submitting breeding lines to NVT since the program's inception. AGT's Adelaide-based CEO believes the new analysis is significant.
It acknowledges that we've really progressed in the way that we think about statistical analysis of our variety trials and how we present the information.
And with a few lines on a whiteboard, this is the very basic outline of how it works.
Let's assume we're looking at the yield in NVTs in northeast New South Wales. And what the previous analysis would do would show us the mean yield of this variety might be there, and the mean yield of this variety might be there. But the new analysis, what it does is that it acknowledges that there are different environments, and that might be seasons or locations that behave very differently in the way that they rank varieties. So we might have a variety that actually has an adaptation profile like that, and we may have another variety that has an adaptation profile like this, where in this type of environment in northeast New South Wales it is very low yielding, and in this environment here it actually is very high yielding, and vice versa. So the previous analysis showed that their means are almost identical, but the new analysis shows that they are actually very differently adapted and have very different risk profiles.
Whether the NVT data is accessed online or from sowing guides, the difference users will see is the number of columns.
Instead of in the past getting one value, one column of data for a particular region, say the Mallee of Victoria, they will now see a number of values, a number of columns. And each one of those columns is an environment, is a season or a trial, a set of trials. And they can see the performance of the varieties in each one of those different environments, even all based on the Victorian Mallee or any other region of Australia.
Additional information that will deliver an even better platform from which adoption and change can be launched. The type of change that will help grain growers capitalise on the R&D that has gone into the breeding of new varieties.
The strength of it, as I say, it's to give them much more understanding and better management of the risk. You can identify now if there is a weakness in a variety where that was lost before, but more importantly, you'll identify the strengths of the varieties and those that are very well adapted across all the environments. That is the strength of the new analysis.
Now, if you'd like to see that information for yourself, log on to the National Variety Trial website at nvtonline.com.au and go to the long-term yield reports.